So I watched a little thing called Indie Cross, and among the characters that I knew very well, there were some unfamiliar faces, among which was this character.
I am Nico, a person.
Intrigued, I decided to see what game he was from, which led me to OneShot. With my interest thoroughly piqued, I figured, maybe I'll play it, perhaps make a video on it, and that's what this is. But before we begin, make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe, perhaps leave a comment if you feel like, and if you're an enjoyer of stylish and comfortable t-shirts, I sell those on my Etsy page. I have 2 new ones that I have just made, that being Draconic Wonder and Dracona's Symbol, if you are interested. Genuinely, these are some of the more comfortable t-shirts that I own. Anyways, on with the video! Hi!
Hello?
With Nico having woken up in a place he is not familiar with, and with me also not being familiar with this place, I decide to have Nico take a look around so that we can both get our bearings, having him take a look at this computer, which seems to require a code. I eventually noticed the remote on the floor and directed Nico's attention to it, hoping that it could be some kind of clue. Unfortunately, it's a little too dark to read, but after rubbing my 2 brain cells together for a little bit, I then direct Nico to the window in the hope that maybe the light coming from it can allow us to read it, and luckily that actually worked, revealing the code for the computer. I would then input the code and talk to whom I will refer to as the computer entity. And suffice to say, I was not ready for what this entity had to say. Access granted. Yes! You found me. Why? You're already too late. Not much remains of the world. Oh, really? Oh well. Guess we'll just give up then. Thanks for playing with us, everybody. This will be apparent once you go outside. I see, I see. This place was never worth saving. Why not? What? You still want to try? Yes, I still want to try. I would very much like to try. Please allow me to try. Then remember this. Your actions will affect Nico. Right? Your mission is to help Nico leave. And most importantly... What the... I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what the frick? Okay. The game knows my real name. That's terrifying. Holy crap. After my quite reasonable freakout, a door unlocked, allowing Nico and I to explore further. I directed Nico to the left where he found a withered stick, and with nothing else of note in here, we then traveled downward into the other room we now had access to. Though Nico, unaware of my presence, is kind of looking for anyone he can talk to and get an explanation, as he is quite confused and possibly frightened. And also apparently felt the need to put the branch into the broken TV. Though nothing really came of doing so we wandered around for a bit, making note of the fireplace, then wandered around a little more and found a bottle of alcohol. Aha! Figuring I could use this to start a fire in the fireplace, I directed Nico back to the TV in the hopes that he could somehow do this, like get some kind of spark or something. And while this did not work initially, I would end up finding the solution by messing with the inventory controls. Oh! Okay. That's not what I meant to do. With the branch now covered in alcohol, I tried sticking it into the TV spark again, and sure enough, we now have fire! The fire is blue! With the new light source, there was now something metallic glittering from beneath the floorboards. Upon fishing it out, Nico would find that he had retrieved a basement key. I would then direct our protagonist over to the right, as we had yet to explore over there anyways, and upon descending the stairwell, we would find a curiously large light bulb that lit of its own volition somehow. With the large light bulb been told, I would send my little feline friend here back up the stairs and over to this light bulb-shaped keyhole, which I am just now realizing I forgot to make note of earlier in this video until now. Oh! Alright, sweet. it will show your name once. In the pop-up that I already talked about. Where are we? What's left of a computer terminal. Having escaped that rundown apartment, we now find ourselves in the Barrens. How the heck we even got to this place, I have no idea. But then again, a lot of logic is just out the window with this game, so I guess it is what it is. Exploring the Barrens for a little bit, we find that it is just chock full of broken down technology everywhere. There are robots and broken tracks just all over the darn place. We then found this robot in a robo, and while Nico's interaction didn't actually yield anything, I figured the interaction was significant enough that this guy will be important later down the line somehow. Exploring further north, Nico and I found this here trailer. Then, after addressing me as though we've been friends since the first grade, I am explained to that Nico is in fact a living person and still needs to rest sometimes, and that the game will close whenever he takes a nap. And then to the right of that bed is a broken piece of ceiling, which Nico takes the liberty of adding to his inventory. Continuing to wander, I accidentally try to combine the sun and the metal rod that Nico found. Chaotic evil. Don't do that! Alright, go down. And then with the guidance of my chat, I sought out a way to be no longer called what I did not consent to be called. Making my way to this here robot dude. He goes up to Nico and claims that Nico is the Messiah and that the light bulb he is carrying is in fact the sun. They then offer to answer any questions that Nico might have. To which Nico inquires about the computer entity talking about him, but seemingly to somebody who is not Nico himself. To which the robot explains that the entity was trying to talk to me, and apparently as far as this world's people are concerned, I am a god. Whereas Nico has the ability to communicate with me directly, and upon figuring out how to do so, I kindly ask that I be referred to as Drago. Nico is then kind enough to pass this information along to the robot, who then immediately updates all records as to my name. The robot then provides some world building about why we have the sun to begin with. See, the old sun just kind of disappeared from the top of the tower, which typically houses the sun, and the world just kind of went to crap from there because you kind of need the sun. And so now it is Nico's job to, with my guidance, bring the new sun to the top of that same tower. As for the sun itself, it is apparently not just a source of light, but also a source of electricity. This thing is a power generator, alright? Apparently solar power in this world is a lot more efficient than it is in our world. Ever since the sun's disappearance, they've been having to rely on some stuff called phosphor, which is a chemical that just kind of over time absorbed and stored a bunch of energy from the previous sun. And then Nico asked about his ability to go home, for he is foreign to this world as well and would like to go back to his. And on that front, the robot was utterly useless. So I directed Nico to the building since we were right next to it anyways. Looking around for a little bit, we found this here box, which could not be opened by anything Nico had on him at this moment, and also these here papers, which explained that the robots were not allowed to go against their programming, not allowed to hurt people, etc, etc. We then found this here mini generator, which acts as an individual power source for the robot we just talked to outside, and there are more of these things for other individual robots around the area. And then there's also this big machine that you now see Nico interacting with, which seems to have an empty slot of some kind. I then had Nico try to put anything he had in his inventory into the slot, see if anything fit, and nothing he had fit. After thoroughly double and triple checking everything that this building had to offer, we found nothing else of use. So I guided Nico back outside so that we could continue exploring the Barrens and possibly find something. So, just over to the right, we found this big ol' warehouse, inside of which there was a press machine, which Nico was able to use to turn the metal pipe he had into a crowbar. That was scary. You did well, Nico. Good job. To which I immediately guided him back to the building we were in before to open the box that we couldn't open earlier. Inside of the box, Nico found a battery with a broken glass bit on it. I directed Nico over to the machine to see if it fit the slot, and while it fit the slot perfectly, the battery seemed non-functional. Apparently, the glass part's important enough that we actually have to fix it for the battery to function, so back to exploring. Wandering north, we found a note that says if you want to continue going north, you're going to need a gas mask. And then we also found this here safe, but didn't really have a code for it. Aimlessly wandering for a while, and accidentally putting Nico into the gas area.
In the air here, it hurts to breathe.
Yeah, sorry. Inevitably, we make our way northeastish and find this new building, and upon entering, we meet this individual. Hi there! Hello, new person. Are you the Messiah? That's what I've been told. I expected someone taller. Didn't we, at least someone who doesn't look like a kitten. That's what you are, right? Some sort of cat? Nuh-uh. He's a Nico. I'm a person. You have the eyes of a cat. But cats walk on four legs. Well, either way. I don't think we're actually given a name for this robot, so I'm gonna just call her Uzi. See, Uzi here is kind of depressed, thinking that the world should be just kind of left to die, believing that even if we put the sun back, the world isn't really gonna be saved just because it's been left without the sun for so long. Never mind, her name is Silver. I'm just stupid. From this note, we learn that there's been some kind of accident at some nearby mines and that everybody's been evacuated. Then, after poking around a little bit, Nico finds himself a screwdriver, which Silver allows him to hang on to. With really nothing else of note beyond this chessboard that Silver hasn't used in a very long time, we exited her house and continued going east, where we approached this abandoned mine, at which point Silver decides that maybe she should accompany the small child. Upon entering the mines, Nico finds himself a camera, to which I have him open the inventory and see if he can combine it with any of the other stuff he has. This is actually something I've been having him do with everything he's picked up until now. I've just never made mention of it because it's never actually, yielded anything until now. For you see, Nico would use the screwdriver to pop the lens of the camera, and then use that lens to replace the broken glass bit of the battery, effectively fixing the battery. I am a genius! And then, by using the sun, Nico would find that he was able to charge the battery. So a little bit of backtracking later, we slot the battery into that machine just to find that it was a big old generator for pretty much all of the robots in the area. Upon exiting the room with the generator, I also find that this computer now has power, allowing me to once again talk to the computer entity. The computer entity explains that the code to the random safe that Nico and I found earlier, the code did not exist in this world, but luckily it had a way of providing the code, and doing so by just uploading a document directly onto my PC. Alright, hold on. I gotta dig through my computer files. Luckily, the document was like front and center in the Documents tab of my files, allowing me to get the code and direct Nico over to the safe. 5. Wow, it worked! Wait, how did you know the code? I still don't remember seeing one. I have my ways. I see. What's in the safe? Oh, right, let's see. Ah, I found a gas mask. Also, there's a weird looking book. I can't read it though. It's empty. What the? That scared me. What is that? With the gas mask, Nico can now go into the gas area, and upon exploring for a little bit, we eventually come upon this here factory-looking thing. I have Nico talk to this robot who explains that we are now in a chemical plant for cleaning supplies. Nico then picks up some rubber gloves and takes a look at a document going over some cleaning procedures that I do not care enough to repeat vocally. I then directed Nico to this boarded up doorway, and after ripping off one of the planks so that he could get through, he just discovers a whole bunch of cleaning supplies and more cleaning procedures. And then, with nothing else for the chemical plant to offer, we left and continued exploring. Going northwest, we found this town area, where upon speaking to the guard robot, he explains that pretty much everyone has evacuated due to the gas building up to a point that it is dangerous to live around here. Looking around the general area, we found some notes that people wrote shortly before taking off. After that, Nico found a syringe. I then have Nico wander around looking for something that he can use the syringe on, eventually finding the smaller gas thing, and remembering that one of the procedures was to put gas into a container of some kind. I have Nico use the bottle on it. With gas in a bottle, we continued wandering until we found that we had made our way back to the robot bot. Oh, you're awake! I am functional! Was it you who fixed the generator? Well, Draco helped me, but yeah. Hello, nice to meet you. I am Robot 310. Would you like me to take you somewhere? Sure. Are you okay? I cannot move. Well, you're still really rusty. That's true. Hold on, Dragon and I will find a way to help you. We finally have a very clear goal, and it is to clean the robot so that he can just get us across the water and continue our objective. Fortunately, I only had one more item that I actually needed in order to, pull that off. But rather unfortunately, that one thing just could be anywhere in the entire Barrens. After wandering around for what felt like 20-ish minutes, I eventually gave up and asked chat where the heck I was supposed to go, to which they guided me and Nico over to this bubble-looking thing, which Nico was able to use the syringe and fill it with the bubble. So with that, we returned to the robot, cleaned him off, and now we're finally able to progress to the tower. Oh, never mind, his navigation isn't working. Gosh dang it! We're then told by the robot that in case of such an issue, we should talk to the head engineer, which Nico and I both just collectively assumed to be Silver. And it seems we assumed correctly, because as soon as Nico explained the situation to her, she immediately knew what to do. See, the robot has the ability to just look at a material and then immediately know where the heck the material came from and how to get there. Backup tracking system should activate. Ooh! What's that? See, the amber of this necklace is found from the glen, which is further inland towards where we're trying to go. Thus, giving it to the robot would allow it to just kind of be able to actually navigate again and get us to where we're trying to go. However, this amulet is kind of important to Silver, and thus she has a hard time parting with it, but she hands it over to Nico nonetheless. And then Nico, being the good little bean that he is, asks Silver if there's anything he can do in return, to which she asks for a simple game of chess. During their game, Nico asks a bunch of questions about being a robot and stuff, and the long and short of the explanation is that the robots in this world are much like robots in real life, where they can only really think within their programming, because that's literally how robots work. But then they keep using the word tamed, and as far as I gather, it's basically what happens when a robot is able to gain free thinking on the level of a sentient being such as you or myself. I think. Anyways, they finished their game of chess, but before Nico and I can continue with our mission, he says he's feeling a bit tired, and who am I to tell the little guy that he can't go to sleep? Sleep is important. Sweet dreams, little buddy. And the game closed. Huh? Oh. Hello has chess points. This is... Are we seeing Nico's dream right now? Hey buddy, welcome back. Oh, are you still there? Yes. Ah, I'm awake. I had a dream just now. I saw. You did? How? Wow, I really thought I was back home. We would then explain to each other that, yeah, this isn't either of our worlds and that we both come from an actual planet Earth with a proper star system and stuff. After our little chat, Nico finally shows the amber necklace to the robot, allowing him to finally navigate us to where we need to go. Provided that Nico ditch a bunch of the stuff he has due to weight capacity. So now we're on our way, and Nico is just having the time of his life on that boat. And so, after docking and briefly navigating this little building here, we officially arrive at the Glen. So Nico and I press forward, encountering this little child. Greeting. I'm catching fireflies for Mommy. Oh, that's nice. Just to the north of her is this fishing village, where Nico and I are informed that the gale is just kinda sinking, and that everybody here is going to have to move away eventually. But for now, there's fish to be caught. Anyways, Nico and I continue wandering around before we come upon this individual looking for his lost sister. But then he observes the sun in Nico's hands. Wait, that's the sun. Are you the savior? Yeah? Oh, my stars. I'm sorry for my rudeness. Huh? It's alright. You're looking for someone. My little sister. She's been gone for 3 days now. I've been looking for her all over, but what does she look like? Little shorter. Long blue hair, blue feathers on her head, and I'm sorry, I haven't seen anyone like that. Where was the last place you saw her? Back inside the ruins. She said she headed towards the forest, so I'm waiting here now. I ran out of places to look. That's not good. And with that, we began to make our way towards the ruins, and on our way over, we encountered this big robot. Recognizing the sun in Nico's hands, the robot immediately guesses that we are on our way to the tower and directs us to the doorway behind him. Unfortunately, he cannot allow us to pass due to his program unless we are able to sign the waiver that he has, which we cannot do because Nico lacks any sort of writing utensils. So I guess we gotta keep an eye out for that now. Wandering around, we find this doorway blocked by vines. This will become important later. Eventually, we come upon this computer where I once again converse with the entity. It seems I need to help you again. Nico will not be able to progress otherwise. This time, the information you need has fallen most easily accessible place on your machine. What the ever-loving fudge knuckle? What did you do to my desktop? So the entity decided that its latest means of helping me would be to change my wallpaper to this. Now, what this is supposed to do to help me, I have no idea at this point in time of playing. Of course, me, the guy talking to you right now, I know because I've already played the game and stuff, but you'll have to find out later in the video because that's literally kind of how this narration thing works. Venturing through the ruins, we eventually come upon this back exit, leading us to this plant lady who seems to be on her deathbed. For her dying wish, she requests that we hand over the sun so that she could feel its warmth just one last time. And upon having Nico hand it over, she is able to actually gather just enough strength to actually pull back the vines that are blocking the various doorways, allowing us to explore further into the ruins, but we'll have to leave the sun here for the time being. So going back into the ruins and through this doorway that was previously blocked by vines, we find ourselves in a new area where Nico talks to this wandering trader person. However, the interaction is short, as Nico does not have anything on him that is of any value, at least not in the eyes of the trader. I would then go back into the ruins, and through enough exploration I would find myself in a room where the puzzle solution on my wallpaper is actually going to come in handy. Oh! So I matched the tiles on the floor to what was on my wallpaper, not only causing my wallpaper to go back to normal, but also causing this doorway to open, revealing the little sister that was missing. How the heck she survived 3 days in there, I have no idea. So Nico and I guide the small child back to her brother, and after they reunite, they thank Nico and invite him over to their home. After arriving there, Nico is gifted this golden feather, which I interpret to be a quill, which could be used to write, except we still kind of need ink, so the journey for writing utensil is still on. Nico hangs out with the 2 other children for a while, and then we head out searching again for our way forward. Making our way back to the area with the trader, we talk to not the trader, but to this shepherd guy who needs help getting his rams in order. So we help him do just that, and as a reward we are given some wool, which Nico trades with the trader for some ink. So now we can finally sign the document and make our way forward towards the tower, thus furthering our goal. But first we actually need to go pick up the sun, because we kinda need that. The light's gone out. Drago, do you know what happened? Don't you really? But, oh. What am I gonna do? It lit up again? Phew. She's gone. Oh, there's something on the ground here. It looks like a kernel of corn. Must have left it behind. So anyways, I took Nico over to sign the documents, however the poor child is very tired and needs a nap, and so, once again, I take him over to a bed where he may do just that. More dream stuff. Is that a school of some kind? Drago, I had another dream. Did you see this one too? Yeah. I was in a big field, like the one in my last dream, and I saw my village, but then I woke up. With Nico's homesickness out of the way, we pressed forward, going past the guard and finally arriving in the city. So upon entering the city, we are immediately greeted by this here sentry bot, who explains that we have to get to the surface in order to enter the tower, and to get to the surface, we must use the service elevator. But before we leave, he warns that there's probably going to be some trick to actually entering the tower, and that we should visit the local library first in order to glean, like, what trick that might be so that we actually know what the heck we're doing. However, I was curious to see what this robot was actually guarding, so I directed Nico to go past him instead of actually progress towards our goal. And luckily, the robot actually let Nico through as he was carrying something called the Sacred Kernel, which was dropped by the plant lady when she, passed away. So we entered the garden, and Nico placed the kernel into the pot. However, there was no dirt. Alright, let's get ourselves some dirt. So continuing forward, we encounter this man who is angry because the elevator is flippin' broken. How is it broken? Well, the button to call the elevator is flipping missing. And we can't call a mechanic to come and fix it because the only way for them to get up here is through the elevator.
What idiot designed this thing?
Nico then suggests that we make a new one, and so we set out to get the materials in order to actually do so. But then we located another bed and Nico needs a nap. Pancakes! Drago, I had another dream. Ma was there, did you see her? Yes. She made me pancakes. I think it was my birthday, because people always get their favorite food on their birthday. A whole lot of it. Oh, then, what's your favorite food? Wait, do you like pancakes? I do like pancakes, yes. Me too. On my last birthday, I ate 10 of them. Nico then wonders if the people back at his home are worried about him being missing at all, and then we continue forward to further our goals. So we enter this little cafe where Nico finds a coffee tin on the ground, and for once, the employees have a good excuse for not picking up after themselves right away. I'm sorry about the trash on the floor. I was gonna throw it out earlier, but then my co-workers caught on fire and I had to drop everything to help them. They're fine now, though. It's a good thing fire doesn't hurt robots, huh? Yeah. Good thing. With nothing else of note in the cafe, we would go up north where we talk to this clock man who somehow mysteriously knows the time, and then we would find this room with a stapler and a tape dispenser just kind of bolted to the table. We couldn't do anything with them right now, but I'm sure they will become important later. Going south of the clockman, I once again talk to the computer entity, who gives Nico some film and tells me to expose it to the void. With the established pattern of using my actual PC somehow, I immediately figure out that what I am supposed to do is drag the game window to the outside of my desktop to, you know, where you can't see it anymore. And bingo bango, we now have a code! Going upward, we find this locked door with no way past it, and then up to this balcony where Nico decides he wants to kind of talk to me. He shares that he's never actually been to a big city or anything like super populated. He's from like a very small village, and that he can't actually imagine living in a place with this many people and that many things just going on. Heading over to the west, we find this apartment area. I will not go over everything I found in these apartments because very few of it is actually important to the story, so I will only mention what I deem to be, you know, important. Such as a room with a man who loves his plants, and from this man we were able to gather dirt, which we could then use for the sacred kernel. Just south of the plant man's room, we found this common area where Nico was able to procure himself some magnets. I then directed Nico back to the garden so that he could apply dirt to the kernel. However, the dirt was still looking a little dry, so I guess we need water now. Returning to the apartments in search of more stuff that could be useful, Nico would see a Roomba for the first time. I'm not sure what this is. It's like a little car. What? Do it. Ah! It's a cat on a Roomba! It's off. Well, that was fun. Looking around, we found a bathroom where Nico was able to procure a pair of scissors. Using these scissors, Nico would cut out the shape of the button we needed and then use the magnets to mimic the, I guess, push of a button to or attach it or something. I don't know how this is supposed to work. Alright, let's see if our arts and crafts button works. Alright. The button fits snugly and I hear the machine powering on. The button completely fell apart. Yeah, you tried. Eventually, remembering there was a stapler, we used that to hold the button together. Take two. I hope this works. It works! Ha 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 ha! What? The squares? You saw them, right? They were on the door, and the square stuff happens all the time. I meant the whole security code thing. Luckily, thanks to the entity, we had a security code handy, so after inputting it and having a long, awkward elevator ride down, we have now finally reached the surface. Heading over to the right, we found the library. However, we needed to speak to the head librarian in order to get the answers we sought, and we could not get to them without a library card. How do we get a library card, you may ask? From the head librarian, of course, who refuses to pick up the phone. Nico and I would then thoroughly poke around the library, see if there was like a spare library card or if anybody was willing to lend their library card over to us just for a little bit, but to no avail. So, completely stumped, I directed Nico out of the library so that he could explore the rest of the city area. So going left of the library, we found this back alley where something weird happens. Here. What the... Drago, did you see what happened? Yeah? My vision went blank for a second. Then I saw something. Like a really short dream. Wonder what that was about. Whoa! Did you see that fox just now? It ran behind the tree. I'm sorry if you were looking for me. But I cannot talk to you. Not now. But can you promise me something? Huh? If you can find a way to return, please do. What do you mean by that? No reply. There's no one here. It disappeared! Anyways, we exited the alley into this shopping district area where all of the street vendors are selling the most street vendor junk food I have ever heard of in my life. But just to the right of the vendor was this guy again, doing his job of a lantern lighter. Nico asks him if he knows how we could procure a library card, to which he gets the bright idea of directing Nico towards the factory. After all, it's full of scientists, and scientists read lots of books, right? Surely one of them must have a spare library card. Don't ask me what this guy's train of thought was. I mean, the idea is something to go by, so, might as well. So on our way to the factory, we encountered this person who was just dealing photos or something. Anyways, on to the factory. Except on our way to the factory, again, we found this water cooler street vendor who was selling a pill that would allow you to stay hydrated for a very long period of time without actually drinking water. And we did actually clarify it does not last forever, but it does last for a very long time. Anyways, continuing towards the factory, we actually passed by the tower, but we have no way in because that's what we need the library for. And then we wound up accidentally wandering back into the alley area where we picked up these glass tube things, which I guess is going to be important later. And then we finally found the factory. It was just left of where the street vendors are. We then found this color-coded security door, and because the robot would tell you how many things you get correct in a given attempt, I figured I could actually brute force this one instead of going out to look for a solution. So after doing that, we gained entry to this new room where we found somebody who looks suspiciously familiar. Nico explains the situation to her, and she's kind enough to hand over her own library card, although we're going to have to figure out some way to replace the picture on it. Nico then points out that she in fact looks a lot like Silver, so I have Nico go back in and show her the amber amulet that Silver gave him. We then find out that this lady in fact designed and built Silver with the idea of making a robot that could think freely for itself. Unfortunately, Silver woke up and chose violence, and she had to be shut down and recalibrated, and now she's a lot more docile, but the damage has been done and Silver is not allowed around people. Well, that's a nice bit of world building. Anyways, we need to figure out how to change the picture on the library card that Nico has, and I seem to remember a street vendor that deals in photos, so maybe they can help. So navigating to the photo vendor, they tell us that just next to them is the actual photo booth. However, the machine requires 4 special lenses in a specific order. Luckily, we already have the lenses, but we just need to figure out the order. So going out and talking to the street vendors, who I guess used to work in the photo center, they each give a slightly vague answer individually. It's slightly more clear when you put them together, but with the combined answers from all 4 of them and some trial and error, we were able to finally get the machine to work again, where Nico was able to take a picture of himself and then glue it over the picture of the scientist lady whose name I neglected to learn. So now finally we can enter past the robot and talk to the head librarian, who, after a little ego trip, would help out by translating the book that Nico couldn't read that he had been carrying around pretty much this entire time. However, she would need a bit of time to do so. But that's perfectly fine because Nico was needing a nap anyway. He's all tuckered out from running around all day. Luckily, the librarian has a bed with which Nico could rest within. Huh? Oh. You're home, but the sun has been smashed. Drago? I guess you saw my dream. Yep. I was... Come on, let's go. So we go down and Nico talks to the librarian again, and now the book has been translated. Turns out it was written by somebody who seems to know of the entity and knows of the entity's ability to talk to me through my computer, and describes that this thing is in fact the spirit of the world, which I interpret as being literally the game itself. Anyways, it's then explained that to enter the tower we first need to bring the new sun as well as 3 pieces of the old sun, which luckily George had the final piece, whereas Nico already had on him the first 2 pieces, that being the amber necklace and the golden feather. It then says that once in the tower, I will have to follow the instruction on the floor and then open the window again, which I admit went right over my head. The librarian then hands over the 3rd and final piece of the previous sun that Nico needed, and now it is time to finally go to the tower and complete our mission. Hey Drago, you remember where the cafe is? But first we need to give the child food because he has not eaten a single thing since getting to this world. The small cat requires sustenance. You will feed him. These pancakes are good. Thank you so much. No problem. You looked really hungry. Yeah, I thought this would be my last chance to eat before I go to the tower. Ah, gotcha. So I guess pancakes are your favorite food? Mm-hmm. Well, almost. My favorite food in the whole world are the special pancakes that my mama makes. She likes to pick hazelnuts and grind them into batter. Oh wow, that sounds amazing. It tastes amazing. She always made them when I was feeling sad. Or lonely, or... Mama, I really miss her. I just have a bad feeling all of a sudden. Am I even here to save the world? People have been saying how the sun won't fix anything. I don't even know why I'm here. I just want to see my mama again. Oh, there. It's gonna be okay. I'm sure you'll be able to save the world. You're a tough kid. You managed to get this far, right? Yeah, but... then you'll get to go home afterwards, right? Right. Hey, you want some more pancakes? It's okay. I'm fine. So yeah, thanks for coming by. Thanks for listening. And for the pancakes, no problem. Good luck. So finally, with Nico's thoughts in order, we can finally head in the tower to do what he was brought here quite forcibly to do. And upon scratching my head for a little while, I figure out that what I'm supposed to do is literally just close the game window. Huh? Okay, so what I did was I clicked the X on the window. I closed the window to see if that did anything. Huh? Is this inside the tower? It's a lot darker than I thought. Wait, where's the sun? Drago, do you know what happened to the sun? I do not. Drago? Oh, I can't. With my ability to talk to Nico thoroughly severed, he now wanders the darkness. And after wandering for long enough, he finds a computer where I have one last chat with the computer entity. Oh! I found something! Hello, Nico. Hello. Congratulations, you are now inside the tower. You are talking to me now? Correct. You were always talking to Drago before. Where's... Drago has already left. Hey, no, I'm right here! I had to resort to a way to contacting you directly. Wait, so Drago is just gone? Just like that? Correct. For good? Correct. No. Drago has already finished their mission. And so have you, Nico. Here, you can rest now. everything that's happened here is like a bad dream. When you wake up, you will be home. Oh! But, what's wrong? I thought there'd be more to it, you know? I thought we were supposed to go to the top of the tower. I thought there was supposed to be somewhere we need to put the sun in. Now I don't even have the sun anymore. And Drago's just gone. It feels wrong. But you did good. You saved the world, Nico. Are you not happy? I guess I am, but it's just... never got to say goodbye. As for you, Drago, we're done here. Don't return to this world anymore. Smell that? That's the smell of bullshit! Surely this is not actually how the game ends, because whenever I tried to open it, it would just force me out. So I started digging through my files, hoping that maybe, just maybe, there was some hidden something somewhere that would allow me to circumvent whatever this trick was. And I spent a good 20 minutes before thinking to actually open the Steam file where the game was located, and it was there that I found my answer. A black clover icon, which upon opening just made a blank window. So after sitting there for a second figuring out what to do with it, I just thought maybe I open the game and something will just somehow be different. And it turns out, I was right. I knew it! I knew that wasn't it! Nico! I am here. Hi there. Hello? Drago? Was that you just now? I thought I heard your voice in my dream. And you're still not here. Wait, there's something in my pocket. I don't remember putting it there. You're still here. Nico, why are you still here? You. Yes! Me! Computer entity. Why did you come back, Drago? Oh, I felt like it. I told you to stay away. Well, I don't take orders kindly. You knew. I tried to cut the story short. Is that it? You want more out of me, is that it? Sure, we'll go with that. Fine. If you don't want to leave, I'll make sure you never do. Huh? Ooh. Oh! We are now within the confines of the tower, where the entity is at its most powerful. However, its power was not absolute, hence my ability to circumvent its little trick. However, I was now lost, with no way of knowing where to guide Nico in order to find my way out. That is until I noticed that the clover window was no longer empty. Now it had something on it, a paper sheet, which not only gave information as to what was going on, but by lining it up with the clover on the bottom right of the game window, it would reveal the path to guide Nico out of here. Of course, due to using window capture instead of desktop capture, I had no way of actually showing this beyond just putting it on the top left corner of the screen as you see now. Now, I will give you the abridged version of what the paper person told me, which is basically that the entity, aka the world itself, wants to die, which is why the first sun disappeared in the first place. However, so long as Nico and I are here, it cannot do that, because me having the game window open prevents it from dying, and then Nico being here with a new sun to save the world also prevents it from doing that. However, something else is also explained to me. If Nico puts the sun on the pedestal and saves the world, he cannot go home, for it is the sun that binds him to this world. On the other hand, if Nico were to, say, smash the sun, he would be able to go home, but the world would die. Furthermore, it is explained that the entity would make an attempt later to deceive me into thinking that breaking the sun would actually accomplish both. I would then guide Nico through the tower, solving the puzzles with the help of the paper person. And it was then that he would finally pick the sun back up, and thus re-establish his ability to talk to me. It's the light bulb. Thank goodness it's safe. Guess Drago isn't coming back. Oh, I'm here. Drago? Yes? Is that really you? I thought you were gone. I never left. I was feeling a bit scared back there. I thought I was completely alone. It was silly of me to assume I wasn't. And I guess we need to figure out where to go now, and... the sun! It laid up on its own! Together again, Nico and I make our way towards the summit. However, I would get the occasional message by the entity, who, acknowledging the paper person window, knew that I knew what was actually going on, and basically threw its hands up and said, you know what, nothing I can do to stop you at this point, do what you will. And so, as Nico and I approached the summit, I figured I should at the very least explain the situation to him, explain to him about the choice that must be made. And so, upon reaching the summit, I would think long and hard about the right thing to... I'm gonna roll a die on it! Alright, if it's evens, you return home. If it's odds, you return the sun. And it landed on the corner. Hold on. Alright. If it's evens, and so, you return home. I trust your judgment, Drago. Crack! Drago? What happened? It's very dark in here. Oh. I can see the light at the end of this passage. I think I hear a voice, too. Mama? I can hear her calling me. Yay. All I need to do is pass through this wall, and I'll finally be home again. Ah, I guess this is goodbye. I'm glad I got to meet you, Drago. Likewise, little buddy. Thank you for everything. Oh, you just... What, you guys didn't see. It passed out of the window, down my screen, and just... Huh. And that, my friends, is OneShot. Or is it? For there does exist another ending, one that is obtained by completing the game normally. And upon booting up the game again, the full playthrough will be fundamentally different. Or, you know, so I'm told. Now, if you try to open the game after beating it, you will get the error message, "Savior not found," and then the game will, quote-unquote, crash. And so, with the guidance of one last tip from the paper person, I would locate the, quote-unquote, save file and delete it. And then... we're back in business, boys! Hello? Drago? Wait, why did I say that word? Drago. Why does that sound so familiar? Oh, he doesn't remember. Having woken up in a strangely familiar place, Nico takes a second to get his bearings before turning his attention to this here computer, as there is literally nothing else in this room. And following the hint to go into my documents, I find this message waiting for me, and it is from this message that I was able to figure out the password. The password of which I figured that this run gets its namesake from, that being Solstice. And then I proceed to get the same message from the entity as I did the first time talking to the entity, until up to this point. Oh, no, this is different. No, this does not feel right at all. Have we already been through this, Drago? But that should not be possible. You only had one shot. I wasn't supposed to exist after that. The door has unlocked. Drago? That sounds so familiar. Now from here, things do play out just exactly like the first playthrough for a while, so we're gonna skip forward. So at the prophecy bot, Nico asks him about a name Drago, a name that he remembers for some reason, much to the robot's confusion. Nico then remembers that all he has to do to talk to me is just close his eyes and focus, where I tell him that this is in fact not the first time that we have met. I would then proceed to continue playing the game like normal, having Nico grab a metal pipe, make it a crowbar, pry open a box, and then go talk to Silver, and then go to the mines. And it is here where the Solstice run finally kicks off. There. Now we can go. It'd be rude to just leave now. What do you mean it would be rude? Haha! Oh! Nico tells Silver of his very short dream, to which Silver thinks that maybe it could be of the robot that insists on living in the mines for some reason, and that maybe it was some sort of visual glitch or hallucination or something. As being a robot, Silver doesn't exactly understand how organic beings work when this happens, or if this is something that can happen. Anyways, the journal that Nico has, oh yeah, he still has the journal from the first adventure, by the way. It starts to glow. Where did you get that book? Oh, from a safe. That is the answer. I didn't really question it at the time. I flipped through a couple of pages, but I don't understand a word. It's just something Messiahs are supposed to wake up with? No, I have never heard of anything like that. But I know who wrote the book. Oh, what? What? However, I've only seen his books with a black clover on the cover. He went through the trouble of putting yellow phosphor in it. And the fact that you woke up with it in the first place really has me intrigued. You and me both. Yellow phosphor? Oh yeah, it's a rare phosphor that people think the sun is made up, right? So you do remember. Very good. Wait a minute, how do I know this? I don't think anyone's ever told me about it. Silver would then suggest that since the book only started glowing when we got here, that maybe it would be worth Nico flipping through it again. I would then find an illustration depicting the very room that we were in, and I'm thinking I'm supposed to match the room to the picture. However, I misinterpret that information in thinking that I am supposed to take a minecart from the outside and bring it here, and that will somehow unlock something. And then it dawned on me that I was simply supposed to just line up the image with the room itself. If I stand here and line up the picture. Yeah, baby! I'm smart. I can think. I have 3 whole brain cells. After questioning where the minecart even came from, Nico and Silver decided to take it down the corridor, where I would be warned by the entity that I was going out of bounds, and that should I continue going down this path, Nico would be put in immediate jeopardy. Ignoring these words, I had Nico continue, where he and Silver would find this room, and Silver would discover this monitor, which had a top-down view of the entire layout of the Barrens. Nico would then explore the rest of the room himself and find this back room and meet a new character. The robot asks if Nico knows who pulled him into this world to begin with, and upon realizing that Nico actually doesn't, he asks if the robot knows, to which the robot responds that his memories have been removed for safety reasons, and requests that Nico help him get them back, and hands over a disk to put into the computer next to him with a backup drive, saying that we have passed the first test by using the book to get to him, and that the second test was to help him restore these memories. He then requests that we not tell Silver about him as we go out into actually restoring his memories. Now, to restore his memories, we first need to figure out what this code is, and after banging my head for the better part of a half hour, I figure out that the code is tied to the building numbers, and matching these building numbers to whatever purpose the building serves. What? Wait, that was it? Wait, there was nothing in 7 and 3... I figured this out. So I didn't know that 3 and 7 were supposed to be blank. I assumed they weren't. Because I accidentally left them blank, I figured this out. Does this work? Let's see. Inserting disk. Rebooting. Ah. Are you okay? Sure. I guess it worked? Yes. I believe a proper introduction is in order. I am the prototyped, originally named ProphetBot. I was built to greet the savior of the old world. He then explains that the ProphetBot we've already met is a crude, simpler version of him, built for a crude, simpler version of the real world. Ended. The real world? Oh, right. You don't know. Nico, do you remember the ending? Excuse me? The fact that you found me at all means this is not your first time in this world. So yeah, he explained to Nico that he has already been to this world, he's already been to the tower, hence his, deja vu and why he's able to remember bits and pieces and explains that the reason that I was able to start things over is because that this is just a digital program on my computer. I'm not actually a god, I'm just a guy on a PC. And that the reason the NPCs call me a god is because their limited programming prevents them from fathoming the idea that they live a digital existence. Not understanding that while yes, they don't exist until I allow it, but the way I allow it is just opening a program on my computer. The program? The world machine. A universe simulator that runs on Drago's computer. We're all in it right now.
And I will not be bullied by that!
We're not real? Oh, you are. Which is why you're so important. The biggest flaw of the program is that it cannot be run independently. It requires the mental processing abilities of a real person from another universe. Think of it like one of your dreams. When you wake up, it's gone. But unlike a dream, this world has a physical location inside a computer which Drago operates. Oh, this is... Yes. Just yes to all of it. I love where this is going. I love it. So yeah, to me, this just runs like any other video game where I can restart the game as many times as I like to try and get different endings, except now it seems that I seek the best ending. Nico, however, does not take this information very well, questioning why I brought him back from his own world a second time if this world is just fake anyways. The robot then explains that Nico's link to this world exists so long as this world is not yet saved. However, this world can never truly be saved, to which Nico turns, getting mad at me why I would make such a world, still believing that I am somehow the god of this world. The robot then clarifies that no, I am not in any way a god. I have very little control over what happens, and I did not, in fact, create this world. I just downloaded it off Steam. He explains that the world was not supposed to be this impossible mission, however, it became that when the world itself gained its own mind and sentience, causing a lot of complications. He then explains that because we are now talking to him, there is now a path forward where we can truly save the world and send Nico home at the same time. All thanks to the help of the guy who did make this world. He then says that the next step will require us to go to the Glen and to continue doing things as we did the first time until we get there. Nico, slowly but surely recovering the memories of our last playthrough, remembers how to do that. Silver then walks in on us, to which the prototype asks to see the amber that she has and requests that she accompany Nico for the remainder of his time in the Barrens, as there will be more bugs and glitches in the near future. Because he was programmed with such knowledge. I remember it, what happened in the tower, what I tried to do, and how you managed to see through it all. We have been through all this. Yep! Even though it was only supposed to run once, you still managed to come back. How did you come back? How did you bring Nico back? And then you even managed to break out of bounds, bringing Nico to places that should never have been. It was him, wasn't it? Yep. And now, Nico is upset. What even happened in that room back there? What did Nico learn? Nico is upset. I can feel it. I told you to turn back. But you've chose to trust that man instead of me. No, not even that. Just his book, his ghost. This world is not real. The people are not real. Nico is upset. Nico is... No. Everything is wrong. Oh. So, by causing the world machine distress, more particles. Oh, what are we gonna do? Wait. The exit just caved, didn't it? I saw this coming, but it was a bit more sudden than I anticipated. Both of you, follow me. To where to? The way out. So going to this back room, it is revealed that the prototype had this backdoor exit which went directly to the Glen. However, on our way out, the entity expresses that it can no longer stay together, that due to its own distress, it is starting to break apart, and that it could no longer protect Nico from the dangers of itself, causing the very roof to collapse on top of us. So Silver, holding up the roof, tells Nico and Prototype to run as fast as they can, except Prototype gets caught in a bunch of these glitchy stuff, forcing him to give Nico his memory drive, as I assume with it he can be repaired and stuff. Now I, having control over the minecart, proceed to gun it, whereas Nico is now very distraught over what just happened because he basically had to watch two people he knew, even if they were robots. He just had to watch them die. That is not a pleasant thing. And on our way out, Nico also does come to terms fully with the idea of the fact that this is a simulated world. After all, that's the only way the square stuff glitchy thing makes sense to begin with. And furthermore, as you just saw, he's starting to become depressed over the fact that this world can't be saved and he can't actually go home. So he's just stuck. What the heck do you do in a situation like that? So when we finally arrive at the Glen, this place is in far more shambles than either of us remember it to be. There are vines all over the place which seem to function as bridges, as the actual structurally built bridges are no longer held together. And with the Sentinel full of corruption, the only real way forward is to go into the ruins. Exploring a while, Nico and I make our way towards the Vine Spirit, who is intentionally using her vines to hold the island together so that it does not collapse, and that she needs to concentrate. Nico offers to leave the sun with her, as we did the first time, but she denies him, saying that if she gets too comfortable, the vines will recede and the island will break apart. She needs to stay stressed, and she needs to stay uncomfortable in order for the vines to maintain their strength. So going back into the ruins, we find the two siblings again, where it turns out Nico is very bad at playing dumb. Even the gate to the refuge is destroyed now. Didn't happen last time. Last time? Nothing. I almost let that slip. Guess I should introduce myself again. My name's Nico. Nico. Oh gosh. Would it not be rude to call you by name? No worries. No worries, Calamus. How did you know my name? Dang it, boy! The Messiah knows these things, Calamus. Right? Yes, of course! So Nico then explains that the path to the city has been blocked off and that an alternate one was needed, and that he heard there was some kind of a flooded way to a graveyard, an ancestral graveyard. You know, come to think of it, there was mention of a burial ground in the first playthrough. I just forgot to mention it because I didn't think it would be important later on. I guess I was wrong. So we get to the flooded area of the ruins where Nico has another short dream, or as the children of the ruins call it, a vision. The journal starts glowing again. We now have another illustration of the room we're in, so by lining up the image, we now have a boat! Nico explains this isn't the first time that this has happened, to which Calamus, the brother, is a little freaked out by the idea of things just popping up out of nowhere, but Aloha, the little sister, is just super excited and thinks it's awesome. So the children all climb onto the boat and take a trip to the burial grounds. And on the way over, they are all treated to a nice little light show with all the fireflies and stuff. Upon arriving, the two siblings go to pay their respects to their dead mother, and Nico goes to find the person that he was sent here to find according to his vision and according to the Prophet Bot, which I also accidentally left out. And so we meet Cedric, who originally agreed to meet with Prototype in the city, but figured he would come here to pick us up with his airplane, except it's not called an airplane around here, it's just called a flying machine. Turns out his dad invented the airplane in this world. Anyways, he had to make an emergency landing on his way over here because the engine broke down and now he needs to fix it. Cedric would then ask where Proto was, to which Nico would solemnly explain the fate of the poor robot in the cave and hand over his memory disk to Cedric as like a memorial or something. Except Cedric isn't really fazed by this because as long as he has the memory disk, he can just rebuild Prototype good as new. But first we need to fix the plane, so he sends me and Nico on a fetch quest for a battery and some gears. We ask the siblings if they know where we can find this, to which they just point us to the direction of the trader, something I probably could have figured out by myself. So backtracking to the ruins, Nico and I would spend a hot minute looking for some kind of new path to wherever the traitor might be, and after a bit longer than I care to admit, we eventually made our way back to the Vine Lady, to which Nico thinks to ask if she can repair the broken bridges, as doing that would actually allow us to explore further and probably find what we're looking for. But to do this, she would wind up using the last of her strength and sacrificing her life in order to do this. However, the benefit to this is that it also allows the people living in the glen to evacuate, as now there are more paths for them to get around with. And with the new paths open, we were able to track down the traitor, who was kind enough to give Nico the gear he seeks for free in the form of a music box, as music box have gears and stuff, right? That's kind of the logic we're going by, and that's kind of all the traitor had to offer. Anyways, spinning ram. The music box will have to do, so now all we need is a battery. And after having Nico search the village for a little bit, we couldn't find anything suitable. So I had him explore outside the area where we found this generator, which powered all the robots in the area. So taking it would mean all the little robots would be without power. But luckily, they were fully willing to sacrifice this thing in the name of letting the living beings live. So taking the parts back to Cedric, he says that they would definitely work. It would just take him a hot minute to actually get the battery integrated into the flying machine due to a difference in connecting cables. While Cedric is fixing the plane, he explains that the plan that we are currently working with was made by his father, who was also the developer of this digital world. Nico asks what exactly happens when people get caught in the squares, to which Cedric explains, and this is why I called it corruption earlier, that the code gets corrupted and they effectively just cease to exist. Nico then wonders how his dad could exist if this is a world of code. Does that mean he built himself? And I'm gonna be honest, Cedric does a way better of explaining this than I ever could. My father, myself, the other two, none of us are part of the simulation itself. Our home world, the real world, was actually destroyed a long time ago. In the years leading to the calamity, scientists from all over the world tried to stop it, but the outlook was bleak. A vague prophecy about a messiah from another world became everyone's last bastion of hope. ProphetBot, or Prototype, was built to predict the future about the specifics of the messiah. But as predictions turned out, the messiah would not arrive in time, be able to arrive to our world in time. In fact, the messiah would not have even been born before the world ended. Disheartened, most of the people abandoned their research and resolved to peacefully live out their final years. But some people did the opposite. Even though saving the world was impossible, they didn't want our existence to be in vain, and that's where my father came in. With the last of his resources, he built the most ambitious project yet, the World Machine. A large, detailed facsimile of the old world generated from a pool of memories collected from everyone he knew. After a heavy amount of modification and added narrative, my father was able to convert the entire structure into code. How did that code escape the old world? I have no idea. What I do know is so the guy turned his equipment into code and then uploaded it to Steam. Gotcha. What I do know is there is no equipment back home that was powerful enough to run the code independently. So, aside from the standard hardware, I also needed to borrow mental processing abilities from a living person. My father used himself for that during the initial testing phase. Like I said, it took many iterations for him to make the experience stable enough. But as you can see, even that's breaking down. Father caught on to the issue in the last minute, but didn't have enough time to fix it. After the world ended, the code just kinda ended up floating in the void indefinitely, waiting for a willing operator to install it on their own hardware. Drago? Yeah. The operator, Drago, could then generate the universe using code, becoming God in the process. So, Drago was the living person you needed to borrow? No, that would be you. But why me? I should have asked that question a long time ago, shouldn't I? I do not know. We really need to get going. Nico then figures that he should at least tell the siblings where he's going, but as he's doing that, corruption begins to show up. Now, it is spreading slow enough that Cedric thinks that maybe he can take 2 trips, take Nico to the city, come back, and then get the other 2. So, going off of that plan, banking on it, in fact, we decided to take off and get to the city as fast as we can. Now, Nico, who's never flown in a plane before, cannot help but find the experience just exhilarating, despite the stakes that are at hand. proclaiming that that is the single coolest thing that he had ever done. However, I need to remind you, Nico, we are not out of the woods yet. Nico then is able to cheer up, saying that even though this world is just a simulation, it's a nice place full of nice people and nice sights. And then that's where things start to go wrong again. Due to get to the surface, I remember having to fix an elevator button. Alright, you should attend to that then. We meet up here in an hour, okay? Got it! Alright, now let me just... Dagnabbit! No! They're trapped on the island! Kalamisaloa, they're... We don't have much time left. Nico, change of plans. Give me the memory disk. Alright. Listen carefully. It's likely I'll be targeted again, so we should split up to keep you safe. I want you to find a door under a large clock. The room behind it houses a pair of ground access elevators. Once you get to the ground, immediately find Rue and bring her back to the room. She will know what to do in the meantime. Alrighty, what about you though? I'm going to bring Prototype back. Oh, you have a parachute. What? Are you okay? What? Are you okay? Don't worry, I'll be fine! Don't scare me like that. Having arrived at the city, we once again encounter with the guy trying to fix the elevator. Except now, we cannot fix it. See, all the stuff we need is in the condos, which has been taken over by the corruption. And so has the elevator, as it would turn out. Meaning that we are now going to have to definitely find an alternate path down for both ourselves and the evacuees. Luckily, Cedric mentioned a pair of elevators behind the room that he specified, so off to go find said room. Turns out it was this locked door which I had found but never followed up on in the first playthrough, which demanded a password that was once again Solstice. Inside we find these three spots which I assume correlates to Nico, Prototype, Cedric, and the third one that Cedric mentioned. And it is here that we find our alternate ground elevator, except that Nico, on his little cat feet, cannot reach the lever, so we're gonna need to go and get the elevator guy as he is much taller. Pull the lever, Kronk! So using his hook that he usually uses to light lanterns, he is able to pull the lever and bring us down, except immediately after stepping out of the elevator, he goes back up to retrieve people, only to get caught in a whole bunch of corruption. I don't even know what to say about that. That is just all kinds of unfortunate. Remembering the mission, Nico and I press forward, until we catch Kip trying to prevent Cedric from making his way to the factory, somewhere he needs to go in order to rebuild Prototype. Unfortunately, she doesn't understand that this is kind of integral to saving the world and stuff, so Cedric, fighting her off, is able to get away and get to what he is trying to do. It is then that Kip notices Nico, the supposed savior, who is in fact a child, so she brings him to the library for shelter. But while we were there, a ruckus could be heard, and it turns out that the place Cedric was supposed to rebuild Prototype had now collapsed, which, yeah, Nico does not take that very well. But focused on the task at hand, Nico informs them that he needs to leave. Now, at first, they kind of resist him on this until, after some back and forth, they more or less convince themselves that, wait, hold on, this kid is supposed to save the world. Who the heck are we to stop him? So finally, we can carry out the task and head to the alley, as I seem to recall that is where we met the fox the first time. And sure enough, she was there waiting for Nico the second time around. With exactly no time being wasted by Rue, she instructs Nico to take her back to the clock room so that the final whatever can be performed. But when we get there, Rue is surprised to find that neither the Prototype or Cedric are there waiting for them, and it is then that Nico finally is able to explain to Rue what has happened to them. Figuring that all hope was lost, Rue invites Nico up to the balcony so that they can at least have a nice, long chat before everything goes to crap. During their chat, Rue explains that the world machine has always been very self-destructive, and that is due to the fact that it has a singular contradiction in its code. See, its primary objective is to bring somebody into this world and use their processing abilities to actually run everything to try and save everyone from the old world. However, this immediately conflicts with its secondary protocol, which is to allow no harm to come to a living being. And so, it winds up attacking its own code, as harm to a living being is inevitable when pulling them from an alternate universe. See, originally the ending to the simulated narrative was that Nico put the sun back and then he can go home. Both could be accomplished at the same time, but as the world machine kept destroying its own code, that no longer became possible and it had to become one or the other. See, originally the guy making the world machine thought that the code destroying itself was just due to the project being too big, so he kept making it smaller, he made the NPCs simpler, but by the time he figured out that no, it was in fact the world machine being self-aware and destroying itself intentionally, it was already too late. So in a last-ditch effort, he made a workaround where if the protagonists were to destroy the sun, then they would be able to at least go home. And it also turns out that the world machine believes that all of its denizens, including the ones who are not originally a part of the simulation, are just bits of code, therefore they are not real, meaning that it is impossible to tame the world machine. And it is finally here that it is explained how taming robots actually works. See, because of their AI, they are able to actually learn and take in information. And so, if you were to say, treat a robot as though it were any other living person, it will pick up on that input. It will pick up on the fact that you are being friendly to it, and over time, it will learn how to reciprocate the behavior, until eventually it learns how to actually think freely outside of the limits of its original programming. Hence, you tame the robot, granting it free speech by just treating it like a person. After the conversation is over, Rue suggests that we just head to the tower and have Nico break the sun again. Except it turns out that Cedric and Prototype were fine and were waiting for us to get done with our little talk. Turns out Proto's design was preset into the machines, meaning that there was a new one lickety-split and it just needed the memory drive. And so we go back into the clock room, where each of these three bottom spots, ignore the fourth one, are actually portals, and once each of these three guys stand on it, it is then up to me, as the player, to open my files and move the portal destination into a separate folder. So, as all three of them take their place, it is now up to me to open my documents and move the folders titled Portals 1, 2, and 3 into a folder titled Big Portal. And so entering this new area, we are now face to face with the world machine itself. Oh yeah, those three, they're fine, by the way. So entering this little doorway, I found a familiar instruction upon the ground. Here goes nothing. And he is here with the world machine. Ooh! We are inside the world machine. Within the space, there was but a singular path forward, and at the end of it, Nico would finally come face to his own face with the entity, mimicking Nico's form as a means of easier communication. Now, this is a very long conversation, so I will do my best to summarize it. See, the reason the world machine is especially unstable this time around is because Nico and I went outside of its protocol. We went out of bounds, causing it to panic, and in its panic, it caused itself to self-destruct even faster than it was before. It also then explains that at first, it only attacked its own code out of its own sheer curiosity to more or less mess with the guy making it and, to see what happens and stuff. But then one day, one of the NPCs fell into one of these corrupted code bits, causing him to destabilize even further, causing the creator to downscale everything, create less NPCs. However, that didn't really help, because by doing this, the creator himself would continuously be put in danger, further conflicting with the world machine's protocol not to let a living person come to harm. It then explains that all it really wants is for Nico to be able to go to his home world safe and sound by any means necessary. But the only way to actually do that was to implement the original ending, one where this world gets saved and Nico gets to go home. However, in the entity's self-destruction, that ending has been lost, not to be recovered. Nico then turns this into a therapy session about how the entity is always fighting himself, about how the fact that its very existence conflicts with the law of never let a person come to harm. The entity then wonders why Nico even wants to save this place to begin with. I mean, all of the characters are just predetermined code with very limited understanding and very limited capacity for actions. But then Nico argues that no, they are a lot less limited than the world machine seems to think, for they knew exactly what to do when the world started collapsing around them. They had the foresight to seek shelter. They had very human responses, almost as though they could think like a person, and that maybe, just maybe, the world machine's code, its capacity for thinking, might be greater than it had previously thought. Nico decided to test this by asking the entity to put him through the original ending, even though the code is already gone. The entity resists for a while until Nico suggests that maybe, just maybe, the entity might have actually been tamed, because it acts just like the tamed robots. It acts like a person. After all, a robot is tamed when a person actually puts a ton of care into that robot, much like the creator did, and much like Nico is doing now. And then Nico suggests that I also care. No, I really don't. This is just a computer program to me, but neither of these two know that, so you do you, I guess. Finally, the world machine is convinced and will try to piece back together the original ending. And then Nico, putting his faith in the world machine to the fullest test, tries to walk into the corruption. After all, no living being can come to harm within the world machine, and it turns out he's right. The entity then tells me that this will for sure be the final run, as it was able to piece together the original ending, and that Nico will put the sun back and then remember this whole adventure as though it was some sort of dream once he gets back home. But first, the credits, where the entity was able to restore and rescue everybody that was caught in the corruption, including Silver, the siblings, and this one robot. All of whom will be sent home as soon as the credits are done. But before the credits are done rolling, I just want to say, this game is just awesome. My mind is just, I'm blown away. Like how, who comes up with this? How do you come up with a concept like this? I mean seriously, this game was awesome. I highly recommend it. Of course, not everybody has a computer that can play this, but my goodness, this it was a good time. I loved it. Time for the ending. This is where the sun belongs. Here goes nothing. The sun has been returned to its rightful place. The world has been restored! The sun is shining. All is well. The world has actually been saved. Not just through putting the sun back, but also by stabilizing the world machine. Huzzah! Oh, you have a staff. I did not know that. Hold on, I'm going to test something real quick. Let me make this window smaller to see if it shows up when Nico walks off of the game window again and down my screen. Hold on. This is the room I first woke up in. Draco, are you still there? Draco? Yes? Draco! I think it worked. It did! The sun is back. I actually got to see it this time. I actually did it. So, what do we do now? Guess I should figure out how to get home from here. Wait. This isn't a door, is it? Looks like one of the portals we saw back in the city. The room behind the big clock. And I see a wheat field on the other side. I see my village. I hear my mama. She's looking for me. Drago, this isn't the first time we've said goodbye, is it? But this'll be the last time, won't it? I don't think we'll ever see each other again after this. And what will become of the world? After all we've been through. After everything we've done. I still don't know. This place, these people, won't stop existing. They'll be in your memory, and they'll be in my memory too. And they will be in the memory of Steam. I promise I'll never forget this world. And I promise I'll never forget you, Drago. So take care of yourself, okay? I plan to. You too. Goodbye, Nico. Goodbye, Drago. Okay, it doesn't show up, but he's walking down my desktop screen and will now disappear behind the taskbar. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Thank you for playing OneShot with me, everybody.